Testing, testing. 1, 2.
Well, Aljamain, how's life been since defending your title against TJ Dillashaw on Fight Island?
Life's been great. Life's been full. I've been eating a lot. Just taking my time to smell the roses a little bit and enjoy the fruits of my labor and just getting my life in order. But yeah, other than that, short answer, life's been good.
What do you, when you say life in order, what do you mean? Is that like, because you had hinted about things you wanted to do maybe outside of the fight game after your fight too. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, all the in-between things that you need to get done in between a fight camp. When I'm in training camp, I literally almost have time to do nothing, because I'm just so dialed in. So for me to actually have a little bit of downtime, as soon as the fight was over, I was pretty much hitting the floor running and just trying to get things in order, trying to figure out what's the next step to get everything done so that when the next training camp does come around, I could just focus on that. And I think that's what's helped me get to this point. And, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
So, and it felt like as soon as you won, everyone's like, oh, the Sean O'Malley fight's next, the Henry Cejudo fight's the Marlon Vera. So if you had to match make the Bantamweight division before you return in June, which matchups would you like to see? If you were Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby?
I would whoop all their asses no matter what. Honestly, I feel that's how I honestly feel. If I had a match make, I'm going to go by who's the number one contender. I don't believe in cutting the line. I believe in doing things the hard way, the way I had to do it. I didn't get any handouts. I had to fight through everybody in the top 5 pretty much, top 10. And there was no shortcuts to just jump the line and elevate to a title shot opportunity. Even when I had a number one contender fight, I think you guys could remember that the UFC wasn't so keen in giving me that shot that I earned. And who knows why. I guess maybe my style. It seems to be okay when the Dagestanis do it, but it's weird when I do it. I don't know. It's like this weird disconnect I'm trying to figure out. Maybe, like I said, maybe it's because I'm not Dagestani. I just got to shave my mustache, and I think things would be okay. But if I had to pick somebody, give me the money fight. Whichever one that is, I think is personally O'Malley. And people may think, oh, you're just going to take him down and steamroll him. I think I would do that to anybody. So he can catch me the same way I could take him down, and it'd be a short night for him. The same way he could catch me, and it could be a short night for myself as well.
So if that's the case, would you want to see maybe Henry fight Cheeto in the meantime?
I would like to see Henry show that he's serious about this, I don't know. I can't take the guy serious. And there's nothing against him. He's accomplished so much. So I don't want to rag on him in that regards. But I do think if he actually gets back and competes against somebody to make it go like, okay, this guy's for real. And I do understand his what he's trying to do. He doesn't want to take a number one contender fight because if he loses, it's just, he would rather lose in a title shot opportunity, and I think that's where he's at right now. I'm like, no one told you to retire, bro. Like, we all knew you were going to come back. Like, what stupid games are you playing? So that's on you. The vision has passed you by, and what you've done 3 years ago doesn't quite hold a candle to what everyone's doing right now and competing. This game, I think, is kind of past him. And he's a smart dude. He's getting older, but that fight doesn't really move me to go, oh yeah, I can't wait. Like, I'm not getting up out of the morning like, yeah, I'm fighting Henry Cejudo. I fight O'Malley, I'm like, yeah, this is a big fucking fight. I fight Cheeto Vera, I'm like, this is a dangerous and a big fucking fight. That's the way I feel about that. With Henry, it's just like, I'm fighting the king of cringe, whatever you want to call him. I don't know. It's just whatever.
Looking at your last fight, I don't know if you saw, but when for the Anatomy of a Fighter, they showed kind of Khabib watching your fight. They didn't show what the positions or everything, but he said something about this is his position. He's the best in the world here. Speaking of your fight, I think it was when you're on top of TJ. So were you aware of that? And what do you think about when like Khabib, who many consider the best wrestler, one of the best, is calling you the best in certain positions?
It was cool. It's really nice to see someone of his, I guess, stature who recognizes what other people are doing. Khabib is one of the greatest on top position with great control. He takes you down, he drowns you, and it's really hard for you to get back to your feet. So I think even him being in the back room for that little bit, he was working out with Islam, and Hasbulla came through. Shout out Hasbulla. They got to see Merab and I rolling a little bit. And I think he could still, he wasn't like just watching us, but I'm pretty sure he saw like glimpses and pieces of what we were doing, and then to see that happen in the fight, despite TJ's one arm, Mr. Potato Head, arm falling off. I think he knows, like, you can recognize skill and talent when someone's doing something, Even the same thing, like Islam might not have fought like the best guys, but he was dominating to the point where everyone was like, he is the best guy, because you can recognize what he's doing and how he's doing it, and you can kind of go, okay, there's something to this. It's not just he's beating up these lower level guys, because these are high level dudes that he's doing it to. And I think Khabib is just one of those guys who can recognize he can appreciate and see what people are doing, looking at the matchups and analyzing it from that standpoint.
And going off of that, during your fight week, people would obviously ask you like, "Oh, what's next? What's next? What's next?" And you would say like the top 5, but you would mention Umar Nurmagomedov a few times, even though he's not even in the top 10. Is that just you recognizing his skill level and an eventual title fight down the line?
Well, the UFC asked me about him. They did like a top 15, and they gave me names. So I watch everybody. I do my own podcast, and I break down all the fights every single weekend. And Umar fights, and I break him down and analyze his skill set as well. So I know he's a threat. Styles make fights, and I know if we were to compete, it would be a very competitive one. I think the difference will come down to who could be a little bit more tenacious and who gets tired first. But right now, those conversations, I'm not even entertaining it. He's got some work to do still, and I think he'll be in this conversation probably this time next year.
And two more quick ones for me. Saturday is going to be Frankie Edgar's last fight before he retires. So you being a New York native, what were some of the memories you had of Frankie coming up in this area?
Well, of course, the Gray Maynard fight. That's like the biggest one for me, honestly. And then you got the BJ Penn fight. For him to beat BJ Penn the way that he did, who was just like a juggernaut at the time, and just seemed like no one was going to ever like defeat him, you know? And then he came through, and then they had the immediate rematch, and he beat him again and showed like, yo, I'm Frankie Edgar. I'm the answer. I'm here to stay. So I always wish I had an opportunity to train with Frankie. I thought that would have been some magic, and I thought we would have had some great chemistry just feeding off of one of you. Jesus, feeding off of each other. But we never had that opportunity. And the same thing with Dominic Cruz, Uriah Faber. I always said if I'm not going to train with these guys, you know, that I would like to fight these legends of the sport. So fortunately, I'm happy that we never actually fought. I respect Frankie a lot, and definitely going to be dialed in for that one. And I hope he has a good send-off, you know. I just hope he can do what he was doing to Cheeto and just not get caught, and gets the job done so he could go out on the way he wants to go out.
And finally, do you have any thoughts on the main event between Israel and Alex?
That's a dangerous fight, man. I can see Izzy countering him because Pereira is preaching that he's going to bring the fight to Izzy. And if he does that, we've seen what he did to Robert Whittaker, being reckless. He could counter-strike very, very well, and that could be the difference in that fight. Pereira takes his time. It only takes one, the great equalizer, that old faithful lefty that he has. And he's been doing some great work with Glover Teixeira. But I do think Izzy's going to grapple him a bit, push him against the cage, and try to slow him down, so to speak. He's a big dude, man. That guy's massive. He stood next to Dominic Reyes, and I was really blown away at the frames because I didn't know who was the light heavyweight at that point. But I'm leaning towards Izzy, but I've been in the sport long enough to know that anything can happen. But the same way people gave me no chance to beat Jan, which was just like laughable. But yeah, it's gonna be a great fight. I think the fans are gonna be in for a good show this time because I think Pereira is gonna keep true to his word and really push the pace and bring a good fight. So I think this one might end in a knockout.
Aljo over here. Congratulations on your recent title defense. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't give you credit. They say, "Oh, TJ, Mr. Potato Head arm that you said," and this. One of the person who didn't give you credit was TJ himself. After the fight, he said, "Oh, if it wasn't for the shoulder thing, if I didn't have these injuries, like I'm better than him. That's what I'm so upset about it. I can beat him." Like, what's your response to that?
You know, woulda, coulda, shoulda. You know, I was respectful to the guy. After the fight, I'm always respectful. Win or lose, I don't give a shit. I'm here to compete. I'm here to raise the stakes, my words versus your words, and go out there and really figure out who is who. And can you put your money where your mouth is? The guy said he knocked out Cody Garbrandt. Okay, you get a hand clap. Okay, you did it twice. You get a hand clap. But all of a sudden, you lose. Now it's a crutch. The guy literally reached into his jock strap, pulled out a crumpled piece of paper, and just started whipping out a laundry list of excuses after telling me I'm the one with the built-in excuses. I'm like, dude, if I lost, I would have just ate the L. Like, that's just how I am. Like, eat the L, bro. Just shut up. Go away, fix your arm, and come back. I've had a torn labrum. In the beginning of my career, I fought 7 pro fights like that. So, big whoop, bro. You're not anything special. You've done something that a lot of people do. You just fought with one leg, pretty much, against Corey Sandhagen. But what's the difference? The styles. I take anybody down. It's a bad night for anybody, especially when you're in that position where you allow me to get on top and posture up and land some big damage. So he can say whatever he wants. I'm sure he had training sessions where he was winning. And I'm sure he came out doing training sessions the same way he did with me. You pop it back in and you go back and you finish the training session. And I'm sure he was confident enough to know, hey man, I'm still getting through these training sessions. I believe in myself. I still think I can win. Kudos for him for having that self-belief, but you're delusional as fuck.
You said you're purist. You want to go against the number 1 ranked guy. The number 2 ranked guy right now is Merab, and I know you guys.
Is he?
Yeah, he's.
I didn't see the new rankings, so I have no idea.
Yeah, he's number 2, and I mean, I know it's a fight that obviously you don't really want, but I mean, it's a really good possibility that you're the champion and he's ranked number 1 soon. I mean, what happens? What are you guys gonna do?
Well, I think the UFC guarantees that he's get that matchup, and then that he's fighting for the title like he's a lock, and then we figure it out from there. As of right now, I got some things to do still in this division, and I'm still entertaining going up to 145. He's also talked about going down to 125, and we'll figure it out. We do so much for each other that it's just not going to happen, So that's where I'm at with that, and I'm sure he feels the same exact way that I do. I mean, he just came to Abu Dhabi and Dubai to help me with my training camp. He's been there for the other training camps. Same thing for me. I went to Salt Lake City, and probably his last 5 fights in the UFC. So iron sharpens iron. I didn't get here without him. He didn't get there. I would like to think he didn't get to where he's at without me helping, and I recognize that. So that's a friendship that I would never want to ruin over what? I mean, I don't know. This thing, it comes and goes. This is just a moment in time. Like, eventually I'm going to lose, and I'm okay with that. I don't know when it's going to be, and life goes on. And that's kind of the way I live my life. So I don't put a lot of stock into all these things and stress myself out. I just take it day by day, fight by fight, and let the good times keep rolling in. And right now we're having the good times.
One of the narratives of the TJ fight was we always talk about how impressive you are on the ground, and he said that he didn't wrestle D1. I'm a D1 wrestler. And it seems like the guys who don't wrestle D1, they carry this chip on their shoulder where they're always trying to prove themselves to that. Would you say that's an advantage, having that?
Oh, 100%. That's why the D3 guys, we get off when we beat these D1 guys. That's like one of our like, I guess, what would you put it? Like, I don't know, like laundry list that beat a D1 guy, ruined his day. He thought he was bigger than whatever he thought. I don't know. Sometimes those guys have a real egotistical approach, and I love D1s wrestling. Like, overall, pound for pound, those guys are definitely better than D3. But there's guys at the D3 level that can compete D1 that either didn't have the grace to go, didn't have the financial means to go as well, and sometimes you just get dealt a shitty hand. So I could have wrestled D1. I didn't get the opportunity. I didn't have the resources. I started wrestling in 10th grade, and I closed that gap relatively quick. I think if you're a student of the game with anything in life, that you can do that. It just depends on how much time you put in. And for him to really just try to shit on my wrestling, I didn't really get that mental approach. You could say you're better, but to say like, oh, D3, I wrestled D1. I'm like, dude, you never All-American. I don't even know if you even went to the national tournament. So you probably wouldn't even place in the D3 level nationals. Probably wouldn't even qualify. So I'm not trying to keep kicking TJ while he's down. But the dude does it to himself. He just like, dude, just shut up. Like, I don't want to talk about you, but you keep making me have to talk about you. And if you keep doing that, I'll be petty and just keep doing it as well. I congratulated him. Not congratulated him. I shook his hand, or I think I shook his hand. I don't know. I gave him a pat on the back. Just told him, like, yo, I thank you for the opportunity. Like, you're one of the guys I've watched for a very long time. Big inspiration in terms of style. And I can always give credit to my potential opponents, because I'm just a big fan of the sport. But then when he goes and says stuff like that, I'm just like, dude, you make it hard for me to want to put the pettiness aside, and just brings out the evil Kermit Aljo. So if you want to keep doing that, I'll keep doing that all day long. I got all day.
My last question, you just talked about your YouTube, and you like to analyze and break down and preview stuff. Any chance we ever get to see you on like the actual broadcast team calling the fights?
I would like to. ESPN, if you guys are out there listening, I think that would be interesting. I've done it, I think, 3 times, and I had a great time doing it. But you have to make sure you do your homework. As Dominic Cruz says, make sure you do your homework. DC has been doing his homework of late. But yeah, I can see myself doing that at some point. Fighting is fun, but watching it sometimes is a little bit easier, less stressful. So I can't wait to watch the fights this weekend so I can just be a spectator, have a couple of drinks, and just relax.
Aljamain, just down here. You got to spend some time with Leon Edwards in Abu Dhabi. How do you think he does against Usman in the trilogy?
I mean, that first round was a really good round for him. I do think maybe the pressure might have gotten to him and maybe zapped his energy a bit. I know he talked about that a little bit, not like the pressure, but talked about like kind of, I don't know if he said like he was in a trance almost, like just wasn't pulling the trigger. And in the 11th hour, he managed to do it. I think he's always dangerous throughout the entire fight, and I think that's the difference between him and Usman. As the striker is always more likely to knock you out versus the wrestler who's more likely to grind for 25 minutes or less. So I think that's the difference. He's always going to be dangerous in that regards, but Usman was pretty handily winning that fight and on cruise control on his way to winning. So I would lean towards Usman, but again, one shot, headshot, dead, So that's all it takes. And I'm a big fan of both of those guys. So I feel I'm like torn when I watch that fight. I got a fellow Jamaican, and then I got Usman, someone I've actually hung out with time and time again and have a little bit of a relationship with. So, yeah, other than that, I don't really know how it's going to go. May the best man win.
And I know you like to break down fights, so obviously if we get to see John Jones return at heavyweight against Francis Ngannou, how do you think that goes down?
Damn. You guys hit me with the tough ones. I hang out with Francis. I got started in MMA because of John Jones. I feel like me picking against any one of those guys. But I can see the fight being John using a lot of wrestling. I think that would be the path of least resistance to winning. Francis is big, strong, powerful. It just, how well can John carry the weight? I don't know. And how well can he do when he gets hit by a heavyweight? That's the big ultimate equalizer. Francis got that power. And to try to wrestle a guy like that for 25 minutes, I mean, we've seen Stipe do it, but I think Francis is going to be smart enough to do the homework to make sure he can at least compete with him long enough that he can land a big shot that can probably end the fight.
And then last one, there's rumors about Colby going up against Hamza. If that does go down, how do you think that one plays out?
I think people are sleeping on Colby. Colby's a dog. Hamza's dangerous. He's explosive. But I don't think Hamza can do what he did to Kevin Holland to Colby and exert that much energy that early on in the fight. Because if he does that against a cardio machine like that and he doesn't get him out of there, that could be a long night for Hamza. I'm sure he's going to be well prepared for that fight as well, cardio-wise. But I think he's going to have to be a little bit more calculated to go with a guy like Colby because he's going to be there the entire time to fight. And we've seen that with the Usman fight. We've seen that with the Masvidal fight. Even the Damian Maia fight. Like, the guy is willing to put his face on the line, eat punches to impose his will, get you down on the ground, and just make it a dogfight.
Thank you.
Aljamain, just in terms of the move to 145, is that something you've been thinking about for a while? It just seems like you still in your current division have so much to do, but obviously ambition's driven you your whole career. What's the mindset behind the move?
Really to avoid fighting a best friend. And so I can eat a little bit more. I'm 170 pounds right now. I'm a big boy right now. I know people are talking about me going to Perth and fight. I'm like, dude, relax. I just did 2 5-round training camps. So I got to let my body not, like right now I'm eating everything because I can't stabilize, because once you do such a drastic weight cut, it's so hard to get your body back to a norm. I thought I would have been like good by now, but I'm still like in these cravings, and I don't know, it's so bad. I might be pregnant.
But you as a competitor too. I mean, the idea of it, the prospect of it must excite you. So many different fighters. I mean, what a great opportunity for you too as a competitor.
Those guys are dangerous, man. I just watched Arnold Allen and Calvin Kattar. Those are some dangerous dudes, and they're a lot bigger than me. But I do think my style is one of those things. Like, if we grappled, and I grappled with any one of those guys on a jiu-jitsu night, I mean, come on. I don't think it's even close. That's my personal opinion. I mean, people could tell me I'm wrong. I don't think it's even close. In terms of domination and dominant positions, getting to the mount, getting to side control, getting to back mount, and just keeping these guys there or even finishing them. That's what I truly do feel what would happen if we grappled. But in a fight, it's different. They got the size. They're going to have a little bit more power, but I do think I would have a little bit more power as well. And I would be forced to kind of sitting down on my punches a little bit more. But at the end of the day, my style is my style. I can be like a Kobe and just grind you and push you against the cage until I could drag you down to the ground. And then once you do that, I think it's off to the races in terms of how long you're going to last.
And I know it's hard to think too long term, but if you're able to be successful and win another title, I mean, that redefines your legacy. I mean, that's got to be a driving point for you as well.
Oh, for sure. And not to change the gears, but like I've trained with Bryce Mitchell. What is he, top 10, top 6, something like that? And the guy is dangerous. He's beating guys, finishing guys. And we have some really good, like he'll say it, we've had some really good competitions in the room. And that lets me feel confident that if I were to go up, I can have success as well. Obviously, I wouldn't be looking to fight a guy like Bryce because we've trained together so many different times. But yeah, if I did go up to 45, it would be to chase legacy and maybe just give myself a fresh start kind of thing and just make this sport fun. Because my thing is like I would retire once this isn't as fun, and cutting weight is not fucking fun. That's the least fun part about this job. So if I could go to 45 and have a little bit more life, and I could be like, oh, okay, I can make weight 4 times out of the year and have more fun doing it, I would definitely enjoy that. And I think that could be ideal in the sense that I could still make money, I can still compete, do what I love, and not put so much wear and tear on my body, if that makes sense. So that's kind of where I'm at mentally.
Couple questions over here on your right.
What's up?
Who's the loudest in the gym, Sarah or Longo?
Well, if they're both in there, you can't tell. You really can't tell. But Matt comes in with the grand entrance, and he's definitely really, really, really loud.
And who's the funniest?
Um,
Because they've got Sarah's gregarious, but Longo's low key. He's pretty goddamn funny.
Longo's funny, but Matt's just like, he can make a joke out of anything kind of thing. And he's like super witty. Kind of reminds me of a Connor, just like right off the rip, just like he'll walk in and just start ripping on something. You're just like, how the hell do you do that? Like you just walk in and just find something to pick at, and then he could just start attacking you. And you're just like, wow. But that's how, I don't know, he's just quick-witted like that. I don't know if it's like, I don't know. He's good. But I would lean towards Matt on that one.
And on a slightly more serious tone, you were talking about your weight, your eating, it's not mentally there. Paddy Pimblett famously thinks he might have an eating disorder because he balloons up so much. What are your thoughts on just like yourself, him, other fighters perhaps, and just the weight and the food eating, like eating disorders perhaps? How does this process?
Yeah, it's not good. I do think whenever I'm not fighting though or not training, my eating slows down, so I kind of stabilize. But I feel like right after the fight, you go through this time period where it could last a month, and you're just eating like an insane amount of food where you're just swollen. It just doesn't feel good. Like, and I know this. I consciously know this, and somehow I'm still stuffing my face. It's the weirdest thing. But I'm hoping like after this weekend, I could just be like, okay, now it's time to chill. I can start working out and make it a little bit more of a normal thing, so I could get down to like 65, and then maybe start working out a little bit more, and then I could get down to 60, and then I could realistically look at the next time period where I can fight. Maybe it's April again. So yeah, it's tough. And he gets huge though, man. I don't get that big.
Well, he starts 20 pounds heavier, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I've gotten up to 176, and that was just disgusting, and it hurt just to walk up the stairs. So I don't even know how he does it. It's mind blowing, but his transformation is fascinating to watch.
Fair enough.
Do you think that O'Malley didn't get the credit he deserved in his performance against Jan because of the controversial decision?
Yeah, but there was nothing controversial about it. People were screaming robbery. It wasn't a robbery. If you go back and watch the fight and you're not emotionally charged because you made a bet, you'll be like, okay, I see why O'Malley won. I went back and I watched it. I did a whole thing while watching on my podcast, and I did like a whole review, and I went round by round, counting the punches, counting the takedowns, the duration of the takedowns, what did he do with the takedowns, and O'Malley won the fight. I mean, you could try to sway it differently with the takedowns, but he didn't slam him down. He took him down to air Jan, took him down, but O'Malley landed on his hands, and then he sat to his butt. It's not like he got slammed on his back. I'm like, oh shit, that would have hurt if that was on a concrete floor. He landed on his hands. The guy was fine, So you gotta look at it like, what does more damage? And I think O'Malley did more damage in that fight. And I think if he had lost, I agree with him when he said that he would have gotten more respect because they're like, oh, you had a really good fight with the number one contender guy. That guy's a dog. And then the same thing for myself. I beat him, Jan, and then people start making all these excuses. I'm like, there's no winning. Sometimes there's just no winning with the fans. It's just like all you got to do is just keep winning and let the history books tell the story for you. You know, so kudos to him. Sign the contract.
Aljo. Aljo, what's going on, brother? How are you?
There's no contract, by the way.
So as far as picking fights, I know you're a champion right now. How much say do you have in the opponent that the UFC gives you?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know if I get that luxury.
I know it's different case by case for everybody. So
Yeah.
if they go April, you're fighting Merab, what happens?
Well, like one, I respectfully decline, and two, I'm not fighting Merab, and yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We haven't had the conversation yet. I'm still in like this transition period of changing like management or staying with management. So it's I mean like I said before, I'm trying to clean up my house before I jump into something else, and I want to make sure I have everything in order so I could go in with like a fresh mind again and just get ready to focus on the next opponent, the next challenge, and that's really it. So when I do have that conversation with Dana, and my voice, I went pretty hard last night. I'm sorry, guys. Went hard in the paint last night. I'm paying for it all day today, hangover. But yeah, when we have that conversation, we'll figure out what's the biggest fight. Because at the end of the day, like I said, I could lose this fight, this belt, the next fight. Okay, so am I going to take a fight that's not going to pay me as much? No, I'm going to take the one that I'd rather take the risk of losing, which you always take a risk, and make as much money as I can while I have this time in the sun. You know, because everyone has their time. Every time will pass for everybody, and just got to do what I can to provide for myself and my family.
So while there's no clear-cut number one contender right now, do you really think Cejudo is not the guy? Because if you're chasing legacy, like you said, wouldn't that be a name that you want on your resume?
Like, yes, but at the same time, no, because the guy hasn't fought. It's just like even when Bisping came back and he fought GSP, I'm just like, I don't know if I would have done that. Like, because, yeah, he's GSP, but the guy hasn't fought in X amount of years. Like, why are you taking, like, I feel like the risk is on us. So, if I beat Cejudo, you beat a guy coming off the couch. Oh, he was off for 3 years. There's always going to be a narrative that people are going to have and try to discredit you. You know what I mean? So it's like, why not fight someone who's actually been in here competing? Give me the guy who's competing, who's the number one guy, who just beat the number one guy.
Well, that's you. You're like the Rodney Dangerfield of MMA. You can't get no respect.
I don't know who any of those guys are, but I'll take it.
But even so Cejudo would obviously be a legacy fight. O'Malley would be the money fight. You don't know which one you're going to get next, but even 145 is possibly an option. Would you entertain anything or just a title fight? Would you take a non-title fight at 145?
Like, right, if I could just fight at 45 for the hell of it, I'll do it right now. I'll do it in February. I would do it in February if I can keep the belt, fight at 45, not have to cut that much weight, and it would be a 3-round fight. Give me a 3-round fight and I'll walk through that that's easy work. Easy work.
For sure. And
But
then, yeah,
they're going to try and make it a 5-round, and I don't want to do that.
we had Frivola in here yesterday talking about how good you are, and he's a 55er, and then Menace Bermudez would always sing your praises, and he was a 45er, so I think you could definitely win some fights moving up.
I appreciate it. Yeah, Dennis and I had some interesting sparring matches. And I remember when Frivola first came down to Long Island, back to Long Island to train, and we rolled, I think, one day, and then I asked him if he could spar with me. And I didn't know anything about the guy. I knew he was undefeated, came in like a juggernaut, and the first thing I did was I just took him down. So, yeah, we had some fun and some fun sparring sessions and some fun rolls. So, yeah, I think I could hold my own with those guys. But, again, when you're talking about being punched in the face, that changes the entire dynamic. It's not a wrestling match. It's not a jiu-jitsu match. It's an MMA fight.
And then I know you're very analytical, and you know the way you size somebody up. When you sized up Andrew Tate, granted he's bigger than you, did you sense some realness there? Is he legit?
He's got some skill. I don't think he's the best guy. I mean, I think you could watch the tape and analyze his skill and his technique yourself. But he's got some talent. I mean, when he was doing it full time, I'm sure he looked a lot cleaner than he does now. And that happens with anybody. If you stop doing it for a certain amount of time, you're not going to look as good and as sharp. So I think now he just trains for a hobby from what he was telling me, just to stay in shape, him and his brother and whoever he's fucking around with. But top G.
Over here, Aljo. Just 2 quick questions over here. Are you coming out with any Aljo backpacks Any Aljo branded backpacks?
We're trying. I posted something on my IG to try to get like some people, but then I got flooded, and I'm like, there's no way I could vet all these people and have a conversation with everybody. Just not enough time in the day. So I had them kind of send that over to like management and the guys that are running my website. So that's what we're doing right now to try to see what we can do. I do have a rap song coming out. My brother finally finished his stuff. So I'm excited. I think it's gonna be pretty dope. I think it's gonna be dope. And if it's not, boo me, but I think it's gonna be good. So I'm excited to drop that. Hopefully we can get that out in like the next 2 weeks. I think might get my fiance on there. She wants to do some ad libs. She wants to add a female touch. I'm like, okay. I think it's gonna be a little bit of a banger. I think it's gonna be a banger.
The female touch is definitely always right.
Yeah.
And,
so we'll see.
And who, like, besides the popularity, who do you think is more dangerous for you? Is it Chito or is it Sean?
There's such different styles, man. Like Cheeto's more dangerous with those kicks. I think he's very hittable. Sean isn't as hittable, and his footwork makes it more of a trap when you try to track him down. He can counter very well. Not a lot of guys can fight well going backwards. He does a very good job fighting well going backwards and being accurate as well while going backwards. So I just think it's a different puzzle. But who would be more dangerous, like against my style? Maybe Cheeto because of the grappling. But then again, with him and Aldo, he was in a body triangle. I don't know. It just looked like he didn't know what to do there. And but I know offensively, he's got a good key lock, Kimura lock. I don't know if he's got good arm bars. Triangles. So he's a dangerous guy when it comes to grappling. I just don't know how good he is. I don't know. I think they're both very, very different. Both dangerous, but like a different danger for both.
One last thing that popped in my head. I seen the tweet or the post that you released with all your goals. And like looking back on that and seeing how you manifested it now, like how does it make you feel?
It chokes me up a little bit. But even when I look back and I saw just to have 175,000 in my saving account, I was fighting Pedro going into the year. I didn't fight Rivera yet. I didn't fight Pedro. So that just goes to show you like where I was at financially. I had just bought my house, and those were the goals that I was trying to achieve. And to look back and see that I crushed just about every single one of them, I think it's just a testament to just staying the course. Being a student of the game, never losing focus and keeping the perspective on what you're actually trying to accomplish, and never letting nobody get in your head or try to put their insecurities on you to make you believe what they think is something unattainable just because they can't do it. I've had people doubt me my entire career. It just seems like that's just the world we live in. People just want to doubt people when they're trying to do something instead of trying to build them up, prop them up, and I'm just glad that I was able to stay the course and believe in myself and get to where I'm at today. Because to do this, I still don't feel like it's real. Like I wake up every day, it's still such a surreal thing. I walk down the street, people staring at me sometimes. I'm like, I still have that hood mentality a little bit. It's like, what the fuck you looking at? And then I forget I do this stuff on the TV. But yeah, so it takes me back a little bit. And I just hope I can continue to reach new heights in life, and if I could pull somebody up, that's my ultimate goal, just to try to pull as many people up as I can.
Yep, each one teach one.
That's it.
On a scale from Tyron Woodley to Bryce Mitchell, where would you say your bars rank?
Bryce Mitchell.
Hopefully.
Bryce Mitchell actually has some bars.
That's why the scale exists.
I'm not saying Willie did it. It's just the delivery and the flow of Bryce was just a little bit smoother, I would say.
That's very diplomatic of you, yes.
Thank you, guys.